So how are you, Louisiana FFA? Welcome to our first ever episode of our Louisiana FFA Alumni Where Are They Now series. We're really excited to get this started with the growth of Louisiana FFA alumni and supporters that we're experiencing right now. We thought it would be really cool to reach out to some former Louisiana FFA members who've gone on in life and have been successful, and to ask them how their experience in FFA helped to get them to where they are today. So we're very fortunate to be joined today by Lieutenant Brian Roberts. He is a physician in the U.S. Navy. He happens to be a former Louisiana FFA state officer from Springfield, and he was good enough to join us today. So Lieutenant Roberts, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kate. Thanks for asking to do this interview. It's kind of with the career path and what I've chosen to do, I don't get to be as involved with Louisiana FFA alumni as much as I'd like to, but always following you guys from afar. So this is a really cool opportunity.
Well, we thank you for joining us. So to get started, could you tell us a little bit about what are you doing right now? Where are you? What state are you in? What is your job?
Sure. So kind of went some of the usual route after my time in FFA, undergraduate school, then medical school. And then that was kind of led me into being in the Navy. I took a Navy scholarship to pay for med school. And so I did my internship like everyone else following med school. And then I went out in the fleet for a couple of years and was the solo doctor on a ship. Ran their medical department, was the department head of medical and dental for 2 years. And then following that came back, finishing my residency in pediatrics, and I've got a few months left. I'll finish that up this year. I'm currently stationed in San Diego, California. I'm working here at Naval Medical Center, San Diego, formerly known as Balboa Naval Hospital, right in the middle of Balboa Park, right next to the San Diego Zoo. It's across the street. I've been here for almost 2 years now, and after I'm done with my time here, I'll be going to 29 Palms, California with Marine Training Base, doing pediatrics, taking care of our service members' kids there.
And I think that was one of the first questions I asked you whenever I heard that you were going to specialize in pediatrics. So if you're in the Navy, what is the need for pediatricians in the Navy?
Exactly. And, we get that question a lot. And I think if you look at what's going on right now, is a great example of why you need pediatric specialists in the Navy. As an armed forces member, a DoD employee, I can be deployed, whether it be here or overseas, and help in either whatever humanitarian mission that is going on. Many people have seen that the USNS Comfort arrived in New York recently, and the USNS Mercy is now in Los Angeles. And those are military physicians, corpsmen, which are like orderlies and techs, and nurses, pharmacists, all the support staff are all military. And that's why it's important to have pediatricians in the Navy. I did that time as a general practitioner on a ship, but where my heart was just taking care of service members' kids. But that's my full-time job. But whenever they need us, we respond, we answer the call, and we go do these humanitarian missions as well.
So I think most of us know, we all interact with our physicians. It's a little different since you're in the service. What would you say is a typical day in the life of a military doctor like?
Well, when you're working at the hospital, it's about the same. But when you're on a forward deployed unit, if you're out at sea on sea duty, it's just it's more like being in the military than it is being a physician. Your hours are the same as everyone else's. Maybe your responsibility is a little bit different because you are taking care of the crew or your unit. And then just depending on what your leadership responsibilities are can affect. There's a lot more meetings that you might go to, for example, that a regular just family practice or pediatrician would never be at. But because you're in the military and it's a leadership, very leadership-oriented, structured organization, there's a lot of meetings for planning and making sure that all of those different areas work well together, because you're not just doing medical care, you also have whatever the mission is going on. So you have to be aware of all those moving parts and pieces and making sure you're coordinating with the other people that you're stationed with, that you're deployed with, so that everybody is well taken care of and everything actually works as a cohesive unit.
Once you finished medical school, what kind of training did you have to undergo to get inducted in the Navy and then to become a physician in the Navy?
That's a great question, Kate. So many people have heard of like ROTC programs or JROTC. As part of the scholarship program I was a part of is called the Health Professional Scholarship Program. Basically, once you apply and are accepted into that scholarship program, you're commissioned as an officer in whichever branch of the military. You come in as an O1, which in the Navy is an ensign. In the other branches, that would be a second lieutenant. And then once you're done with med school, you supersede to an O3, which in the Navy is a lieutenant. And then in the other branches would be a captain. Somewhere along the way, depending on the branch and how it's set up, you go to some sort of officer development school or officer training school that lasts anywhere from 5 to 7 weeks. And that's kind of where you learn to be an officer in the military. Following that, the rest of your training really is mostly on the job as far as being in the military. And then, everybody's intern year, you could do an intern year, I guess, anywhere, but part of our intern year, of course, is in learning also how to be an officer in the military before we go to those operational billets and take over as department heads that are talking to our commanding officers who are 05, 06 level and briefing them on what's going on with our department.
That's really cool. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of work to get where you are today, but we definitely congratulate you on it, and we salute you for your service, not only as a physician, but also to the country. So going back now, tell us about growing up in Maurepas and going to Springfield. What was that like for you? What was your time like as a student here in Louisiana? And then how did you get involved in FFA?
My involvement getting in FFA, I showed livestock for 4-H and FFA long before I was even eligible to be in FFA. So starting in fourth grade, showing livestock, and then my dad being an ag teacher was certainly instrumental in getting involved. Definitely, that we had a pretty strong program at the school I went to, but I had all the resources and got to see all the different aspects of what FFA could be. So that was really nice. I didn't think at the time that I wanted to really be directly involved in ag as a career, but I knew how important ag was, and I still to this day enjoy working with those aspects. What I liked more about it for me was the public speaking training, the leadership opportunities, and then the service, because FFA is a service organization, and that's what I like most about it, I think. Along with that, and connecting with other students throughout the state, kind of underneath that same goal. And for me, that's what drew me to FFA and why I wanted to get so involved.
What were some of the highlights of your FFA career? What were you involved in while you were a member?
I as I said, I did, as far as just pretty routine stuff, showed livestock, primarily swine production was what I was involved with as far as my, non-school related activity. I did public speaking, so everybody I feel like that does the creed when they're a freshman and then goes on to do either extemporaneous prepared public speaking. Being from Louisiana, of course, Gulf of Mexico speeches were a big deal. So did that, did a little bit of P-Law, and then really running the greenhouse is where I kind of fell into my niche. So we grew somewhere around 500 poinsettia plants every year that we would market and sell, and then helping run. We had about 2-acre strawberry plot there in Springfield that the high school ran, and also did some other vegetables, so helping run that. Got more into the plant production side than anything else. Really enjoyed that. And then was given the opportunity to run for area office, and then run for state office. And really great opportunities. Got to meet a lot of great people. Really feel like you were on the front lines, making, visiting schools, making a change. That was just fantastic. So great opportunities. Definitely would do it all over again.
How would you say that your FFA involvement helped you to springboard into your decision to become a physician and then to get you where you are today? What were maybe some of the key things that helped get you to where you are now?
It's funny you use that phrase, springboard. There was a turning point for me on when I decided to change what I was going to do, and it was at leadership camp. And you may or may not remember this, but there was a guy who was going off the diving board in the pool and tried to do a backflip and split his head open. And there's blood all in the water. And of course he had to go to the hospital and get stitches. And I just remember just being so distraught that I had no idea how to really help this guy. And that really was kind of what made me decide at that point. I changed my major from international trade and finance to pre-med that summer because of that, and pretty much was cemented and go ahead. And I was going to either be, at that time, a PA or a physician, and I later settled on just going to med school. But that was probably the defining moment when I said, that shouldn't be that hard, but I have no idea how to take care of that. I want to be able to take care of that.
How ironic that not just, make you decide to become a physician, but the fact that it's in the water and now you're in the that's just too funny. That's awesome. I think I do remember that happening though. Pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
So what would you say to students who maybe are considering becoming FFA members if they're kind of unsure if they want to get really involved or not? Maybe they think that, well, the career that I've chosen is not really agriculture related. What would you say to those students?
I would tell them that regardless of what they want to do, FFA has something to offer them. And whether it's learning to be a better leader, because whatever your career is, there are going to be times where you're going to need to lead others. And it may not be that you're the boss, but you maybe have to be a leader amongst your coworkers. Just maybe you want to go into business, and in business, you have to learn to just go talk to people. And if nothing else, FFA will teach you how to talk to random strangers you've never met before. I do that every day when I meet new patients and their families for the very first time. I'm lucky I get to work with kids. And so instantly I'm given a license to maybe act a little bit silly and a little bit goofy, just to try to break the ice with the kid. But, being comfortable in whatever position you are placed, which FFA certainly will do for you, is something that is very valuable and a skill that you'll take to whatever career that you decide to go into. Having that knowledge, though, of agriculture and what goes on in the industry and what's happening, I think it gives me an advantage. I have to do nutrition counseling all the time. And because I have a ag background, I think I have an edge over it than some of my colleagues. So it just depends on what, there are many ways that you can take what you're going to learn in FFA and then mold that and shape that into how you're going to use it in your career. It just depends on the career that you choose. But regardless, there's going to be something that you're going to take forward with you, something you're going to use.
So where do you plan on going for the rest of your career? Are you planning on staying in the Navy for a long time or wanting to come out and do private practice? What are you hoping for over the next 30 years?
So yeah, I never say I really have a 5-year plan. I have a 20-year plan, because in the military, your plans change very quickly. So yeah, right now we're definitely keeping those doors open and maybe do a little bit longer, but really looking to get back to Louisiana, at least somewhere in the South pretty soon. I've been away for a long time. I've now lived outside of the greater Baton Rouge area since 2011, so approaching 9 years. And it's kind of time to get back home. I definitely miss crawfish boils and good Cajun cooking. So definitely, regardless, I'll do some reservist time, 5 to 7 years of that, no matter what. So still would be available for situations like we have going on right now in our nation. So it just depends on if we stay completely active or not.
That brings up a good point. I know a lot of our members right now are concerned, here in Louisiana, like maybe not most, but lots of other states, we're out of school for the foreseeable future because of coronavirus. So as a physician, talking to young FFA members, can you give us any insight as to what exactly a coronavirus is? Because we get that question a lot.
Sure. So the coronavirus it's a cold virus. This particular coronavirus, however, because it moved from an animal host to a human host, we just don't deal with it as well, some of us, and that's why you're seeing it affect people so much. So the symptoms are mostly cold symptoms, the common cold that other people would get with any other regular cold virus. And I say cold virus because there are more than 15 different types of what we call cold viruses that cause the common cold. People know about the flu, but there are close to 15 and probably more different types of viruses that cause the common cold. So you do get the cough, the sore throat, headaches, runny nose, maybe some nasal congestion. And in some cases, people get nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. The real one symptom we're really worried about, of course, is difficulty breathing or being short of breath. And that means you may be getting viral pneumonia. And that's what's really hurting people and causing people to need to be put on ventilators and get a lot of support in ICU level care. That's what's got a lot of people worried. The numbers are what they are. I think the state of Louisiana is doing the right thing right now with trying to, do the stay-at-home orders, having schools out. I'm sure everyone is tired of the phrase flattening the curve, but it's important because if we don't have the equipment to take care of people, that's when you're going to see things be a lot worse because you have to have the equipment and the staff to take care of those people when they're really sick. And if you flood the healthcare system too fast, then you don't have those resources, and that's when you have bad outcomes. So I think Louisiana is doing the right thing. Whether or not we is bad timing with maybe Mardi Gras and all the travelers went to the South Louisiana at one time while things were kind of early. I don't know. That is definitely speculated out there. Maybe that's why the greater New Orleans area got hit so hard right away. But it's just a tourist capital to begin with. We know that tourism dollars for New Orleans are big. So regardless of what time of year, that's what brings people there. So I think it's going to take a while. I wouldn't be overly surprised if we're dealing with this all the way through April and not into June. And we'll just see how long it takes. I think how good people are at things like social distancing and avoiding unnecessary contact with people that they don't need to be in contact with is going to determine how long this lasts. So hopefully the country continues to rally around each other and support each other. I know that it's going to be tough probably in these next month or so and maybe a little bit longer, but just got to do our part. And if sometimes that might mean that you are doing, those difficult things like not seeing your friends or, just maybe spend a little bit more time on your cell phone, unfortunately. But that's kind of what we got to do in times like this.
On a much lighter note, before we wrap up, what would you say has been the most exciting experience that you've had so far being in the Navy?
That's tough. So the ship I was on before, we did amphibious ops with the Marines. And so that's where you basically take a group or unit of Marines and you go land on a beachhead, right? And they have some pretty cool equipment that allows them to do that. And so watching the Marines basically take off out of the ship in a tank that floats was pretty cool. Probably between that and we got to do quite a few helo ops on my ship for training purposes down around Belize, landing big helicopters, Chinooks on our flight deck. That was probably some of the cooler stuff. And then just, you do really cool like replenishments at sea where you are moving fuel from one big tanker vessel over to yours, and watching the coordination between those two massive pieces of steel that are steaming through the water. It's pretty awesome. I think just getting to experience that, getting to be around that, and then being able to take care of those service members while they were out there. It's not the type of medicine I want to do for the rest of my life, but I'll never forget it because the crew kind of becomes your family after 2 years, and it's a tough tour, but you really rely on each other. And I think it's kind of the same type of family unit you develop with your crew that you do with your FFA chapter. You travel together, you work on these projects together, you're up long hours. They see like the good, the bad, and the ugly side, and you're a family. And that was pretty awesome. So that's probably my favorite part. I would 100% go back if I stay in. That's probably a future tour I'm going to do, is a bigger ship where I go back as a senior medical officer. Because I did really enjoy that time. It's tough, but it's very rewarding.
Well, Lieutenant Roberts, we're definitely very thankful for the service that you give to our country. We're very thankful for the service you give to humanity as a physician, and we're just so proud of you for representing Louisiana, for inspiring other Louisiana FFA members to do what you've done. And we continue to wish you the best of luck as your career continues to progress.
Thanks, Cade. Excited to see all the cool stuff that's coming out of Louisiana FFA. You guys have definitely feel like pushing things forward. It's been great to see the growth there, and just look forward to following you guys from afar until I make it back home.